couldn't have been more than, I say, 5 years ago when I met my friend Leo Ostabo for the first time again. We were at a rally and we were protesting. We were across the street from the fire department, and there were plans to build 1,600 housing units in the old Kings Park Psychiatric Center. So the community got together and we held a rally and expressing the way we felt about it. Then we were there doing a film on it. And after the afternoon was over, we were packing up, and this man comes trudging across the parking lot and was going right towards us. And I recognized him right off, even though it must have been about 20 years. It was Leo Ostabo. And that man suspended me twice for smoking cigarettes when I was in this school. But I tell you, it's good because I don't smoke anymore, so he must have known something right along the way. And he said that he needed a hand. And so I figured he needed a hand sometime in the future. I said, oh, sure, I'll give you a hand. And without missing a beat, he grabs my shirt and starts dragging me off. I still had my camera in my hand, and I literally had to throw it to my friend. And so next thing I know, I'm at Mrs. Bowman's house. She lives across the street from where old St. John's used to be, now St. Catherine's. She used to have these big targets for archery on her front lawn. And Mr. Bowman was a teacher in the middle school, and he taught archery. And it was quite a thrill meeting her. But next thing I knew, I was in this old barn, and we were moving stuff around that looks like it hadn't been moved around for 100 years. And we packed everything up and dragged it all down to the museum. And then after we got it all unpacked and loaded, Leo says, oh, by the way, I hear you're into computers. I have a computer I want you to take a look at. And seeing as I didn't learn my lesson, he drags me into this room, and I looked for a computer, and I didn't see any computer, but what I saw was about 5 boxes of computer parts. And so I think I got the idea. So a couple of weeks we worked on the computers, and we assembled the network, and we started to develop what we now call the Media Center at the Kings Park Heritage Museum. And one of our first tasks was to scan in these picture books that Leo had collected over the years. These must have been 10,000 pictures of all Kings Park, dating back to 1885. And something's very recently. And as I began to, and my poor son Nicholas and Angel and my good friend Mike, we were down there every weekend, and we were scanning the pictures in, and they laugh about it now, but I tell you, boy, did they protest along the way. And so, but as we started to scan in these pictures and examine some of the old films, some films were absolutely incredible. Like, for instance, Mrs. Reddy mentioned Rennie Reeve. Rennie Reeve, wonderful, wonderful man. He would play piano, and he would get the kids together from the high school and bring them to his home in Northport, and they'd have these jam sessions together. I believe Eddie Reddy's son was part of these jam sessions. A wonderful, wonderful man who still plays at the Kings Park Jazz Festival every year for us this February. Shameless promotional plug. And so, and other things, like we had films that RJO, Ralph J. Osgood, shot of them building this building we're in today. And some other buildings down the RJO school. And I often wondered, at the time, did they realize that they were capturing history? Were they just taking pictures of their friends in their neighborhood? Or did they realize that we would look back on this someday and it would be a spotlight into the past that is so difficult to capture these days? I remember one of my favorite subjects in school was history. I spent years and years studying about Greek and Roman cultures and the empires and the ups and downs of civilizations and cultures. I really enjoyed it, I did. And what that taught me the most is it taught me about humanity and about people, and that we today aren't very much different than those people who lived years ago. But looking at the pictures of Kings Park, things gone by, taught me more about myself and my neighbors, and made me truly, truly grateful, reminded me once again how truly blessed I am to live in a community such as this. So I got together with my friend, King Peddler over there, our mysterious cameraman, and we began to make films using the materials in the museum. Now, what we wanted to do, we didn't want to make dry, dusty films that only the people who are interested in history would be watching. We wanted to have MTV meets the History Channel. We wanted to make it interesting for children, because if you lose your children, you lose your future. So I think it's 250 downloads later. I think we've gotten pretty close to that objective. And at one time, Leo had a lot of time in the museum, but now we're constantly running tours from the middle school and the Girl Scout troops. A lot of that interest generated from our website and our films. So I'd like to thank my friend King Pedler for all his help. Now, as I said, that I wonder at the time if the people understood that they were making films for history. And so we began to also make films about Kings Park, about everyday happenings, whether it's about Memorial Day or the Hibernians raising the flag at the library, or Kings Park Day, or even films about KPY. And when I went to make these films, I thought to myself, how do I want to go about doing it? Do you have a formula? You have to have an idea before you get started about where you want to go. And I remember as a young kid, my mother visited Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and she brought home a book of Norman Rockwell. And we sat down, and we went through the pages, and she showed me how Norman Rockwell, she said he wasn't really an artist, he was an illustrator, and he showed things in his environment, the people he lived with every day, common day places, common day things. And so that's the way we decided to go about it. I'd often find myself asking the question, what would Norman do? And so I thank you very much, and I'd just like to leave you with this one parting thought. This is we have a room in the Kings Park Heritage Museum, the Miles Borden Room. And Mr. Borden is right back there, a former recipient of this award. And I'm going to paraphrase the award, but the saying, but today is very precious. You look around, all the people here today, and even in some of the films, some of our people have passed on, and inside the films are many of our only recollections about them. So advice is to cherish today. Today is the most precious gifts of all. That is why we call it the present. Thank you very much.